why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
Really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, crypto degenerates, ducks and squirrels, welcome to the Degen Roundtables Book Club episode number 97. 97. We are on 97. Okay. I'm making sure that I can actually remember things and do all sorts of cool stuff. But we are covering an interesting book, a more religious-y, philosophy-ish book, kind of a fun book. I enjoyed this one. I've listened to this book probably about a dozen times so far because it's only an hour long on like 1.5 speed. So like you can listen to this book a whole bunch of times. But it's basically 85 super short little one-page chapters on like turd flinging monkey's perspective on Taoism, and yeah, you like his name, don't you, Zenith? That's the best name, isn't it?
Well, it's listed as TF monkey, so it's like, you know, trying to be a little high class about it. But when you get down to brass tacks, yeah, he's the turd flinger in chief.
His name is turd flinging monkey. That's his internet persona. He's part of like the MG Tao movement, whatever the heck. But he's got a whole bunch of interesting things to say on philosophy and Taoism. And originally, it's kind of funny. He was gonna write a book on like politics and philosophy, and then or on politics specifically. And the part about Taoism just kept coming up over and over and over again. He's like, fuck it, I need to write like a whole separate little mini book just on this stuff. But he's got a whole like way bigger thing centered all on philosophy and stuff. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. We're skipping the important part, people. Hello, people at home. My name is Will Stevenson. I'm a tower worker, but you guys don't care about me. I travel the states and build towers. This dude is Zenith. He's way cooler. He's the government and legal analyst. Yeah, look at that hair.
That sounds so much cooler. The man that climbs towers versus the paper pusher. Oh yeah.
Well, I would be climbing towers if there were towers to climb, but broski, there ain't shit to do right now, which is why I'm still home in beautiful Colebrook, New Hampshire. But yeah, so right now I'm just doing a whole bunch of logging and fucking around on my property and fixing things and getting into trouble. And I got a homie coming up here, Brother Oates, actually, you guys may remember from some of the Whiskey Wednesdays and things. He's a good friend of mine. He was in the Navy. We were on the same ship together, and our ship went and bombed Libya and did all sorts of great and awesome, wonderful things about America and spreading democracy and, you know, perhaps making slave states out of Libya and stuff. But anyways, he's coming up to visit me. But enough about me. Zenith over here, he's a pretty cool guy. He's the Degen Roundtable's government and legal analyst, and he likes to talk about cool things. And he also runs a separate show on the side. Him and Tracker and Dace, they run the Walk the Block thing, which is way more professional. They don't swear over there, so we can say fuck as much as we want over here, and we can call all the audience members assholes and degenerates, because you guys are assholes and degenerates, and you're our favorite assholes and degenerates. And we're glad that you guys are here, and we're glad you guys are sticking around and haven't ran away yet.
Yeah, I guess I do have to give a public apology to my Walk the Block audience, because I did get a little unprofessional on the last stream. I said bullshit when referring to political people talking politically. I know. How dare I?
That's a sign language for bullshit.
Very nice.
I shit you not. That is literally. That's
I believe it
in ASL. But yeah, Zenith saying a bad word over there on the professional show. That's the show that you're supposed to show Babushka and show all the folks at home that don't want to be enamored and surrounded by craziness and stuff. I gotta
I
say,
hear
bro,
you.
I gotta say, I do enjoy listening to Walk the Block every now and again because I like actually learning some things. Over here on the DGen Roundtable, I'm not really. I mean, apart from book club, I'm not learning a whole lot. Like, when it comes to the news and when it comes to the coverage and stuff, it's like, man, I really don't know what I'm talking about. But I just kind of go with the flow and say, oh, prices suck. Here we are. It's great. But like the walk the block, you guys actually have lots of good and well informed things to say, and not to say that we don't say good, well informed things on DJ Roundtable. It's more that I don't say good, well informed like news things at DJ Roundtable. That's basically like you and Brendan carry the entire. Like I will opine on things because I have opinions and I'm a a degen in that respect. But as far as like knowing what's actually going on upstairs at the macro level and like the big Fed stuff, it's like none of that stuff makes any sense to me. I think it's all bullshit anyways. And so I just kind of like listen to what you guys have to say and think. So it's really cool to get like the good knowledge and stuff from the walk the block and to get the fun and the hangout stuff over here in the degen roundtable. So it's like it's a great
There you go.
little symbiosis that we got going on. Anyways, enough about you and enough about me. We'll get to the chat shoutouts here in a second, but I want to say this is a special book because this is one of the books that I actually have a physical copy of. So for those of you guys that don't know, most of the books that we cover here on the DGen Roundtable, I will say that Zenith gets an awful lot of the physical books. What would you say? About 20 or 30% of the books we cover, you have an actual physical one of? Like that, maybe.
Oh gosh. In the beginning, I got physical copies of every single one.
Yeah. Probably got pretty tedious after a while. Pretty expensive.
Yeah, it did. I may have filled up like an entire bookshelf.
Yep.
So we literally ran out of space.
I've got my, I don't know if you could see, my bookshelf over there is quite sparse, but it's got a few books and things over there on it past my fireplace. Oh no, what have I done? Oh, I can't move my webcam.
I don't know if you remember this or even really paid attention to it, but I mentioned to the team a while ago, last summer I ended up moving. And then before that, you may have noticed I actually had like a different background. Granted, like same green screen and picture, but I used to have the bookshelf that was behind me. That thing broke from
it just kept
having too much
on
stuff. And then before that, before I moved the bookshelf in, I just had a stack of books going behind me as the background. And it was all the stuff that we were covering. So I just buy one, put it on there, and just keep rolling.
Oh, that's hilarious, dude. Like I do like physical books. Like you can't really destroy them or take them away without like having access to Audible, having access to Telegram. Like that stuff can shut down, through like American Web Service decides like, we don't like Telegram anymore, or your Amazon shit doesn't count anymore, or whatever. It can, all that digital stuff can be like wiped away and taken away, unless the books are on the blockchain or something. Like they can be removed, but like a good physical hard copy book, while they're tedious to actually like open up and like physically read with your eyeballs, they're pretty nice to have. And I don't remember where I got this or when I got this, but I literally I was sitting at my bookshelf week before last, looking at all the books and being like, man, I should do a book that I have for book club. And I saw this thin little bastard and I was like, The Way of a Monkey. I've never actually read this book all the way through, but it's pretty good, man. Just like a quick little summary for the folks at home. It's a book about Taoism. It's a book about basically the way. It's about nature. It's about whatever you want to call it, like just the irrefutable truth of what is and like how life actually works and things like that. So we'll get into that here in a minute. But before we do, it's time for one of the best parts of the show. It's time for the chat motherfucking shoutouts, ladies and germs. So let's go ahead and interact with the folks at home that are being so cool and awesome as to interact here with us. And I see some familiar names and faces out there in the home, starting with Mr. Moonpilled Rational Optics, rocking and rolling on in here saying, hey guys, what's up, Moonpilled Rational Optics? He read this book by Turd Flinging Monkey about 4 years ago. Some good advice in there. It is indeed. It's got some good and some great advice. So good to see you, Moonpilled Rational Optics, one of the show's most prolific book suggesters. So we fucking love you, broski, and it's good to have you. Good to have you with us today. Hell yeah. And some fires. We've also got good brother Sam. My brother Sam is here saying, let's fucking go. I interjected the go, or I interjected the fucking. So Let's fucking go. Absolutely, broski. Good to see you. Good to see you indeed. And not only do we have Brother
Real
Sam, but we
quick,
also have
Sam,
Bonner.
Sam, if you're still in the chat, we need updates on how the mountain bike race went. You got to let us know.
Yes. Yep. Let us know, Brother Sam, how the mountain bike race went. As a matter of fact, I've spoken with him a little bit, so I've got some stories, but it's not my place to tell my brother's stories. So perhaps
Is the man in one
perhaps
piece?
yes. Oh yeah. He did.
Okay,
He did
we're
pretty
good.
Yes, he did great. There were no injuries. He did some awesome networking. He did some great learning and stuff. That's what I will
Fantastic.
say on his behalf is he got a lot of crazy cool goals accomplished, and he is well networked into the mountain biking community, like for both the United States and for New Mexico, and just like the whole general world. And so he's doing a lot of cool things and building a whole bunch of stuff up. So
Very
maybe he'll
cool.
hop on Whiskey Wednesday, or maybe he'll come grace us with his presence at some point. But we'll have further updates on that in the future. But not only do we have Brother Sam, but we also have amigo Bonner. So this is Bonner speaking. Good to see you, Bonner. Welcome to the show. This is, I think, the first time I've seen Bonner in the chat. So welcome, Bonner, as well as welcome, Sam. Sam and Bonner are good friends. They hang out all the time. So good to see. Lots of piracy. As a matter of fact, I have a picture that Bonner drew for me. So hang on a second. I have a wonderful shout out to give to good friend Bonner. It was my birthday over in Texas when I had first moved into the apartment and I was hanging out with Sam and stuff. And good friend Bonner drew me an image of myself that is super fucking cool. And so I've had this and I saved it and I put it on my little shelf of memories. So here's a picture of me. I was wearing a fluffy jacket because it was very cold at the time. But yeah, drew an image of me with a pirate hat and my little bandana that I always wear and my sunglasses and stuff. So that sits on my memory of really, or on my shelf of really cool memories and things. So thank you, Bonner. Good to see that you're here with us tonight, joining us for book club. It's going to be a good one. Without any further ado, we are actually indeed covering a book tonight. So let's what is this that Moonpilled Rash will say? Takes one to know one. Oh, okay. Yes, indeed. It does take one to know one regarding assholes and degenerates. It absolutely does. I would never claim otherwise, that I'm anything other than an asshole and a degenerate. But we are here to talk about a book. Believe it or not, guys. There is an actual book that we're here to cover. So let's go ahead and jump on into the summary for the folks at home who have not read The Way of Monkey by Turd Flinging Monkey. It's a pretty good one. I quite liked it. What did you think, Zenith, before I start hopping off into the description and the summary and the chapter stuff and all that?
So the book is like hour and 15 minutes long at 1x speed. I did it at 2x speed, so I actually ended up listening through it like 3 times today. But overall, I actually really enjoyed it for what it is. It's just a bunch of like parables, kind of like short stories, real quick snippets, ideas, that kind of stuff. So it moves pretty quick, which I appreciate. But it's also interesting seeing how everything kind of fits together, because there's definitely like chunks to the book about like multiple different stuff, kind of about like nature and reality and how like this is the way of nature. Men are a certain way. There's a good chunk about like governance and kind of like not like political ideology, like the way that we contemporary think about it in the contemporary sense, but more of just like structure of government, that kind of stuff, and then interaction between people as society. And then there's also a good bit of kind of like self-development stuff as well in there. So it really hits a lot of the bases that we've talked about on this show before in a lot of the various books, because we've done philosophy, we've done political, we've done self-improvement. We even did 48 Laws of Power and Art of War by Sun Tzu. I felt a little bit of that here as well. So it covers a lot of stuff, does it very quickly, also says it in an interesting way. But for me, this book actually really kind of got me going down a mental rabbit hole. And I started like doing research on the book and trying to like understand more about like the author, the other stuff they wrote, how it all kind of fits together.
When I was first reading this, the thing that really got me interested in it was this this fucking little pie chart here. Let me go ahead and maximize myself, and I'm gonna show this to the folks at home. So we've got a what is this kind of chart called? A pie?
That is a Venn diagram.
Venn diagram, yeah. So we've got the Venn diagram of Taoism, Stoicism, Platonism, and existentialism, and it all kind of like it all kind of like has to do with each other, and those are like the four things that he relies on in the creation of this book. And he talks about like science and empirical data, rationality, predictability, like all that stuff as being like this the thing that runs similar between all of these different outlooks on life and things. So it's quite fascinating. I very much enjoyed this book, and I found myself like agreeing with almost everything in it. I don't think there's nothing that like comes to mind immediately for like hard disagreements. Was there anything in this book that you were like, "What the fuck? What is this bunch of bullshit?" Or was it all pretty rational and reasonable?
It's all pretty rational. It
Mhm.
is definitely an objective look at reality and
Yeah.
life and what it means to live. So a
Mhm.
lot of the stuff that we kind of get as just like the everyday undertone of our life is not in this book. And the guy like objectively tries to push it out and try to analyze what things are.
Yeah.
So there is a fair amount of the book that's honestly just pretty just slicing, or it's a slicing critique of kind of like how we live now and how people think and act and stuff. But as
Mhm.
far as disagreement, not really going to find disagreement with me. I think it's the interesting thing for me though is trying to examine where does the thinking come from, because I think it definitely has roots in some of the stuff that we've talked about. And
Uh-huh.
if there is any disagreement, I can see how someone reads this book and comes away with the idea that this person has some sort of like moral relativism tendencies and stuff. But I think that the author actually does a decent job of trying to get past that hurdle, because some of the stuff he talks about is like determining what is good, what is moral, and that kind of stuff. And it's
Mhm.
like every man has their own values. You're supposed to live in a society that matches your values the best. Even says like religion, it could be true, but more importantly, it's also just very practical and useful for things as long as it aligns with values. But
Yeah.
unless you define what those values are and where they come from, that's where the moral relativism thing is, where it's just like if you create your own morals, then why are your morals any different than anyone else's? Because that's the idea of moral relativism, that it's all individual to each other. But
Mhm.
the author in this one actually, the one of the circles on your Venn diagram there, Platonism, it
Platonism. Yeah.
that is referring back to Plato. And there's also another kind of school of thought which is very closely tied together, and that's surrounding Aristotle as well. And that's where you get away from the moral relativism. So that's where you start going into like what is good, what is morally objective, what what is a moral objective that is good, like either human flourishing or accomplishing what you're designed to do, that kind of stuff. That's a lot of Socrates, and then Aristotle took on it further, going into like human beauty and flourishing and that kind of stuff. So
I did I did think he did a good job of describing religion. I will say that there's like it wasn't something that I disagreed with in the book, but I could certainly see how many people would just take the author's like blanket statements of this is therefore, and they would find disagreement with the this is part, and they'd be like, "Wah!" and get all caught, get their all their panties in a bunch and stuff over it. So like I personally agreed with like all the if this then that, if this then that, if this then that. If you take everything that he says with like a grain of salt and be like, okay, this is what he's trying to portray, therefore like it makes sense in this context. I think he did a really good job um of doing all of that. I didn't catch any of the Aristotle stuff, but I also know very little about Aristotelism, so
no worries.
there you go. All right, for the folks at home who didn't read it, I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick little summary for you guys. So here's the short and sweet. It's probably not gonna be super short because the book basically breaks up into 9 different little chunks. There's 85 chapters, but of these like 85 chapters, there's like 9-ish like categories that they can all be bunched up into. So we'll go ahead and say that like the author in the beginning of the book, he's not trying to like he's not trying to change people. He's not trying to get them to switch to his religion. He's not here proselytizing. He's here to try and help people solve their problems. So like identifying social problems, identifying personal problems, talking about like philosophical lessons, like how does nature work, how does freedom work, like what is a value and like what's responsibility and yada yada yada. And he chose Taoism um because it's about nature, society, religion, wisdom, and living according to reality, which like the word Tao means like what is, which is just like the stuff that's in front of you. So it's like the religion of what is this thingism, the stuff that I can see, the stuff that I interact with, the stuff that is real. So it's very like scientific would be a good a good synonym or a good thing to compare it against because they're very very similar. But yeah, he combines the Taoism, the Stoicism, the Platonism, and existentialism, and a bunch of science stuff to a worldview centered on nature, consequences, values, and practical reality. So I could read for you guys each and every one, like a little one sentence blurb of the 85 points, but I'm not going to do that because that's absolutely ridiculous. We'll just go through a quick summary. So, basically, so we've already talked about like what the book is, but what he does specifically inside the book is he attacks forced equality, dependency, moral grandstanding, bad government, and external validation while pushing the reader towards a Taoist or like a Stoic idea of accepting reality, letting go of control, and living by your own personal values and building with people who share those personal values. So, like, if I'm Catholic and my neighbor is Muslim, right, there's a lot of things that we'll agree on, and there's a lot of things that we'll do together, like we'll be helpful to each other. We'll both be like, God is great, he'll say inshallah, and I'll be like, amen, like whatever. There's a whole bunch of things that will run parallel with each other, and there's a couple things that will crisscross. It's like he'll bow to the east and pray for 3 or 4 times a day and do Ramadan, and I'll be like celebrating Christmas and Easter. But like you work together on the things that you're together with, and you like separate yourself on the things that you're separate with. And the more stuff that you have running parallel with people, the better that you can work alongside them. And the more stuff that you have that crisscross with other people, the more you have to like distance yourself and not necessarily treat them poorly based on the crisscrossing thing, but just understand that like that's a thing that exists. And like I shouldn't try and force my values on someone else, and someone shouldn't try and force their values on me. So um the the summary says that it's a philosophical hand grenade. I don't think it's really a philosophical hand grenade, honestly. I think it's more of a just like, hey, if this then that, if this then that, if this then that, think about this. They talk about like what is freedom? Is equality the same thing as freedom? Do nations need shared values? Is democracy just mob rule with extra steps? I thought that was quite funny. I was very amused. He compares democracy to fuck, what's it called, monarchy, or like theocracy or something like that, where it's like, what's the difference between 51 people deciding that 49 people must do something versus like one guy deciding everyone must do something? It's like everyone, the people that are in that like, oh, I must do something because someone else said so, like they're both being imposed upon. And it's like, why? Because more people said that one is better. It's like, oh, because there's more people now you got to do it. It's like it's very anti freedom, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like if that goes with your values, like if you value equality more than you value freedom, then perhaps democracy is the way to go. But anyways, we're going to go through the main ideas of the book. So the first part of the book is about nature, freedom, and control. It's chapters 1 through 13, where the author turned fleeking monkey basically begins with the idea that freedom is the way of nature, not in that you can do anything that you absolutely want, but in that like nature works through like balance and consequence and mutual benefit and competition and adaptation, and there's certain number of things that you can do and there's certain number of things that you can't do. It's like, imagine a train is free while it's on the tracks. It can go forward and back. It can do whatever it wants. You take the train off the tracks, that's not really freedom. That's like removing its ability to do stuff. So yeah, and there's no artificial equality that's imposed, is basically like the idea of freedom in the nature sense. The second part of the book is all about like work, production, equality, and dependency. This is chapters 14 through 18. This is where there's a whole bunch of economic parables. So it talks about a farmer, it talks about like laborers, the farmer, the laborer, the machine story, which is a pretty good one. That one's chapter 14. I like that a lot. The author basically argues that seizing control of from productive people does not give you their competence. And then there's a B chapter similarly, where it talks, so like the TLDR of the farmer labor machine story is that you've got a farmer working the field and a bunch of laborers, and the laborers are like, man, we're not equal to the farmer, so we're going to sue for equality. And then the laborers are foolish and they go and talk to the government and they say like, we need to be the same as the farmer. And then the farmer is like, oh, well, you're fired because you're not the same as me and you're trying to get the same stuff as I'm getting. So go away. I'm sick of your complaining. And so the farmer buys a machine that does the same thing that the laborers do, but it's cheaper. And then the laborers go to the government and they're like, it's not fair. He fired us, blah, blah, blah. And then they whine and whine until the government makes the machines illegal. And then the laborers come back to the farm to go and like force the farmer to like pay them again. And the farmer is like, I'm out of here. I'm going somewhere else, and he's gone. And then all the laborers die. So that's that story. And then the bee story is very similar, where it's like you've got a beekeeper and a bunch of bees, and it's like the beekeeper has to provide for the bees. He has to like make a nice house. He has to like do all these things that the bees consider like useful and whatever. And he can't take all of the honey from the bees. He can only take a certain amount, because if you take too much honey, then the bees starve and they die. And the point is like it's all about like trade versus force, like people who have beneficial relationships with each other versus people who have or entities that have like parasitic relationships with each other. So that's the second part. The third part is about nations, culture, values, and moral conflict, and this is chapters 19 through 31, where he talks about how nations are held together by common values, not necessarily borders, languages, or flags, and that when shared values disappear, people will substitute force or fear or identity politics or just like blanket patriotism, tribalism, and nationalism to overcome the fact that their cultural values or whatever their ethics and their codes are don't align anymore. So and he also argues that democracy can become tyranny of the majority, and that people generally support political systems that put their own type of person in charge. So, like, obviously, I'm going to support the guys that are similar to me and that are pursuing the things that I like more than I'm going to put someone who is totally dissimilar from me. So that's a pretty good section of the book. The fourth part is about basically leaving people alone, and this is chapters 32 through 40. And this is the section that says, like, if people don't share your values, don't force them. Like, build with people who agree with you, move somewhere better, or like create a small community, like similar to what we've done here in the DGen Roundtable. If society rejects you for loving crypto, then find people who agree with you and fucking build with them, right? It's like it's the same thing that we do here in cryptocurrency, except we're on the internet as like other people do in real life. If you really love ballet, then go hang out with ballet people. If you really love chopping people's heads off, then go hang out with other head chopper offers. Like if you love chopping people's heads off and you hang around with people who like hate that, then there's going to be a clash between the two of you guys. So basically, like the TLDR is that the world's big enough for everybody, and like you shouldn't be forcing your stuff on other people, because it doesn't work in the long term. And he goes on to define at some point that like values are what people decide. He goes into like this really long explanation of like what is a value, and basically a value is just like the TLDR is that like every individual gets to decide what they like, and that thing that they like is what is valuable to them. And so like values and morals, it all comes from like the idea of this thing benefits me, or it benefits the things that are like me, or it benefits my future, whatever the hell. So anyways, you can't like force people to like things, so you shouldn't try and force them to. You can like explain, you can try and convince them, but like you shouldn't be going about inflicting your will, like conducting war, right? You can like try and proselytize and do love, but you shouldn't be doing war against people to force your values on them. So that's the fourth part. The fifth part's all about religion, meaning, death, and ego. So this is chapters 41 through 52, where it talks about like religion and metaphysics. Monkey does call like basically all gods and religions like illusions of control, and this is a part where many people would probably disagree with the book. And I think that for the purpose of his explanation, it was pretty good. But like if you just take it at face value, like, oh, gods and religions, his point of gods and religions are made so that way we can invent stories of things that we don't understand, is like some people will take offense to that. But like for the purpose of putting his idea forward, that's essentially how he describes it, saying that like religion is basically useful because it gives people ritual and identity and tradition and shared values, and it gives them a way to assign positive feeling to a thing that they wouldn't normally otherwise do. So religion is basically a way to take uh, long-term gratification and turn it into short-term gratification by selling like stories and good feelings and lessons and community and stuff. And there's a lot of great things in religion, but like it can be used as a tool for essentially like not everybody's going to be like a far left side of the bell curve type person, and so you need something to help all the people in the middle of the bell curve. Not everybody can ride the motorcycles without the training wheels. Some people got to take the bus, and so you have to build buses, and you have to build like the public transportation. You have to build the stuff for like everybody. You can't just like rely on the philosophy that only the big boy thinkers can consume and understand. You have to give them like, I think in the book, he had a really great quote about it, where he said that like there's people who just want to feel, they don't want to think. So give them something to feel that is in alignment with the stuff that you think and the stuff that you believe and the stuff that you want them to do. So he goes through all this stuff and talks about how religion is useful, and then he also talks about like how Taoist style ideas, meaning like man's not like a single person. Like you've got probably about 2 million bacteria in your gut, and you have fingers and hairs, and you have mitochondria that are the powerhouse of your cell. Like you don't cry when one of the cells on your fingertip dies, and you don't mourn the death of a single like bacteria that lives inside your gut. And like you might be sad if you lost a finger, you might be sad if you lost an arm, but like those things ultimately don't resent you. So the Taoist idea is basically like you exist within a big giant system of nature and a big giant system of things. And so the sooner that you realize, and if you wish to, if you accept that and you move into that sort of thing, then you can come to the same sort of peace and the same sort of um like uh uh unbothered state of mind that a person would be whenever like one of the bacteria in your guts die. It's like it's just one part of the big machine. And so like we can look at ourselves as humans as one part of the big nature machine, one part of the big earth machine, one part of the big religion machine. And like essentially this is what a bunch of religions do anyways. When you die you go to heaven, or when you die you get reincarnated, or when you die you go to Valhalla or whatever, right? It's like you cease becoming an individual and you become one with something else. In the Taoist idea, it's like you cease being the individual of yourself and you become one with all the things that are around you. It's like Simba and Mufasa. Like when we die, our bodies turn into grass, and the gazelle eat the grass, and then we eat the gazelle, and such is the great circle of life. That's the whole Taoist way. So that's chapters 41 through 52, part number 5 of the book. The sixth part goes through like the wisdom and the consequences and the letting go, and this is chapters 53 through I think 64. Yeah, 53 through 64. So this is about personal development. He says that wise men learn not just from their own mistakes, but from the mistakes that other people make, and they prepare for the future. They accept what they can't control, and they let the fools experience the consequences rather than rescuing them endlessly. That was a great part of the book that like I thought was quite interesting, where he was saying that like, yeah, regarding people that make mistakes, you should not save them from the consequences of their mistakes, because then they'll just make more mistakes. You need to let them suffer their mistakes, and like it's better to make them slaves and to force them than it is to like save them. Like it's better to enslave people that make mistakes than it is to save them from their mistakes, because at least if you enslave them, then other people will see like, hey, don't be like that guy that's getting enslaved because a bad thing happens to him. Whereas like if you save people that makes mistakes, then there is no like disincentive for other people making mistakes to be like, oh shit, I can go make that mistake and I can be saved as well. It's kind of like the banking crisis 2008, all that like mumbo jumbo stuff. So anyways, that's neither here nor there, but that section is all about like let people experience consequences and don't rescue people endlessly. He also talks about ego, desire, validation, control, and fear of death. And practically it's I would say it's probably got the most praxeology part of the book. The stuff that's like the most like, hey, do this stuff and your life will be better, is like chapters 53 through 64. The seventh part of the book, and we've got three more, 7, 8, 9. We've got purpose, reality, language, and validation. This is chapters 65 through 71. So this is where he talks about how a person's purpose can change over time, and that's okay. Like my purpose when I was in high school was to graduate. My purpose in the Marine Corps was to load planes, trains, and automobiles. My purpose when I did tower stuff was to build towers. My purpose now is to chat with Zenith and also you guys, and do some thinking and do some learning and maybe a little bit of entertainment. But a person's purpose changes over time, and you shouldn't, and a person should also not chase suffering as a purpose. They should chase the thing that the suffering like buys, and that suffering is the price to pay, but not the goal to attain. So I thought that was really really good, because I definitely know a lot of people that chase suffering simply for the sake of suffering. And like I was one of those people, and to some degree I still am a little bit, but like the real value is the thing that comes as a result of the suffering, not the needless suffering itself. So um, this is the part of the book where he goes after like external validation, and talks about how like the proud man and the envious man are both enslaved by other people's opinions, and things like that. So talk about social media, politics, dating, public image, and all sorts of things. Or that's like what the inference is from all that. The eighth part of the book is about relationships. So like marriage, anxiety, and planning. What do we got?
You just finished up the part about needless suffering, and Moonpill chimed in with this.
Oh yeah, we're all in crypto. We get it. Yeah, that's true. We are indeed all in crypto. Yes. The suffering. Yeah, we should not be suffering for the sake of suffering. We should be suffering for the sake of the golden nugget at the end of the suffering. But like if there is no golden nugget, then we're not idiots, but we have learned something, and we should be very pay attention to that learning lesson that we're getting. So good good snippet there. Good thoughts, Mr. Moonfield.
Would one.
All right, so the eighth part of the book is about relationships, marriage, and that sort of thing. So this part of the book gives like a really fun parable about like a chef, a nanny, a prostitute, and then it talks about how like there was this wealthy man, and he hired like one of these three people because he loved eating food, and he found a chef that made good food, and so he hired him. And the chef like was his personal chef at his house, and he cooked a lot and did a lot of great things, and it was wonderful, and they had a great relationship until one day the chef wanted to open his own restaurant. And so the dude was like, all right, cool beans, go do your thing and chase your dreams. And then like he went to the chef's restaurant every day, and they both lived happily ever after. Same thing with a nanny. Like there was a single dad, and he had a bunch of kids, and he was like, fuck, I still got to work. I need to hire a nanny, take care of my children. And so he hires a nanny, and she takes care of the children. The children grow up one day, and then they say their fond goodbyes because there's no reason to have the nanny around anymore, because there's no like children left to take care of. And so like everyone gives hugs and kisses and goes about their separate way, and the nanny goes and makes money somewhere else, and all the children live happily ever after. And then he gives the final analogy about a prostitute, how it's like there's a dude, and he's like, man, I really do love fucking, I wish I could be fucking. And so he hires a prostitute to be his own personal prostitute, and he's like, hey, just like be at home, be ready for me whenever I need you, yada yada yada, we're gonna have a good time, it's gonna be great, I'll pay you, I'll take care of all your needs, don't you worry about a thing. And then they have a great time, and then eventually she gets unattractive to him, and so he's like, hey, it's been fun, it's been great, but it's time for us to move on to better things. And so he dismisses her, and she's like, I'm a little bit sad, but you know what, I get it, whatever, time to move on and do other stuff. And then but anyways, like these three relationships are all like very transactional, and they're very beautiful, and they're very like everyone knows what's going on. And then he compares it to marriage, which is like, yeah, a dude goes out and gets married, and he has a bunch of kids, and basically the wife stops putting out, and then the wife doesn't take care of the kids, she just goes like day drinking and having mimosas, and then and then she doesn't take care of the kids, she doesn't cook and clean, she doesn't fucking do the stuff, and basically that's marriage. So thumbs up. And he just kind of leaves it at that. And it's quite
slightly
hilarious.
pessimistic view, but we get the analogy.
Yeah, slightly pessimistic, but it's super funny the way that he goes about talking about it. And so that's something that people could find. I could see how others, I personally don't like. I think it's funny and hilarious and great for putting through the point that he's trying to make, but I can see how a lot of people get a little bit in a tizzy about that one. But it was pretty fun. So yeah, then afterwards he talked about like anxiety and planning and emotional decision making and happiness and dealing with people as like a semi business and semi like relationship sort of thing, and how like the two can get mixed up, and how people can like be happier in one versus the other, yada yada yada. But that's quite an interesting part of the book. And then the last part of the book, chapters 81 through 85, is about depression, fear, and rest, and then like the final lessons of the book. So this little part, he says, basically stay flexible during hardship, accept people instead of controlling them, and like distance yourself accordingly. Recognize depression and fear as basically being tied to control or perception of control, and that just remember that rest is just as important as action. So like recover, recuperate. But yeah, final lesson of the book is that effort without recovery destroys the very thing it was trying to strengthen. So, don't push yourselves too hard. Like have a recuperation time, have an end, have like a respite, and then recuperate. So those are the 9 parts of the book. The big themes, basically: freedom versus equality, nature versus artificial control, responsibility is essentially the price of freedom, values, not like borders or languages or whatever, is what creates nations, consequences teach better than force or slavery, let go of ego and desire to the point that it's holding you back, and that like if you want meaning, then you have to create it. So that's the general summary of the book, and that's the more or less analysis. Was there anything that I skipped over, Zenith? Is there anything that you think I kind of glossed over, didn't mention?
No, I think you hit it all.
Excellent. Did you have a particularly favorite part of the book, or was there any part of the book that stuck out to you as being awfully silly or awfully awesome or anything like that? Before I start
There was
hopping into the questions.
there was one section, I think it was like 71. It's
71.
short. I'll read it to you.
Okay.
Is freedom more precious than life? To live only to
Ooh.
exist another day, to consume another meal, breathe another breath, to sleep and arise one more time is no life at all. Life is meant to be lived for a purpose. If that purpose is stolen and cannot be recovered, then there is only mere mechanical existence. If there is hope for freedom, then it is good to fight for that freedom, even at the risk of death. If there is no hope, that does not mean that one should simply throw their life away needlessly. Live to fulfill your life's purpose. Fight to be able to fulfill that purpose, but if one cannot win, do not throw your life away simply to die free. Another opportunity may present itself at a future time, but you cannot seize that opportunity if you throw your life away now.
I like that one. I just dog-eared that, bro. That one was probably one of my favorites. I didn't remember the exact number. I'm glad that you had it right on hand.
It's, for me, this one stood out as an interesting one compared to a lot of the other stuff, because in a lot of the other little proverbs, he's talking about like freedom as like this almost ultimate good, this ultimate thing that should be desired to. But this, in my opinion, is actually kind of like the opposite side of that, which is like, look, do we all yearn for freedom? Yes. Is it worth fighting for? Yes, absolutely. Is it worth sacrificing yourself for needlessly? Answer is no. This is the guardrail on it, because he's saying like, look, if you have a chance at freedom, take the chance. If there's no chance at freedom, don't just take yourself out of the fight.
Yep. So he has one of the things that he talks about in the beginning of the book is there's basically like there's 3 more or less core values in these 3 different these 3 different like types of things that a person can believe in. So you've got the core value of equality, which essentially ends up being communism. You've got the core value of stability, which is absolutism, and then you've got the core value of freedom, which goes into like individualism. So the left and the right, this is like the American or the Western way of looking at these things. Over in Europe, they would take they would flip flop individualism and absolutism as being like absolutism would be a right thing and individualism would be a more of like a leftist thing. But that's like kind of the more traditional European way to look at it. So it's very interesting the way that different cultures look at like what is left versus what is right. Like it's quite fascinating. But those are the 3 things that like people generally pine after. Is like, do they want freedom the most? Do they want equality the most? Or do they want stability the most? equality being like I just like want to have what everyone else has. I want everything to be like fair and just, and like individualism, like the freedom. Like it will have the most disparity between the classes. You'll have the super duper rich and you'll have the super duper poor, like in the freedom world, right? So that's like the price to be paid. In the equality world, there is no freedom. It's all just like, nope, everything's like, whenever you like break out of whatever anyone else is doing, it's like the crabs in the bucket. You get pulled back down in, and it's like you gobble gobble one of us. Like you got to be the same as all of us. And then for the absolutism one, the stability one, this is like when people value like traditionalism and doing the same thing that we've always done. Like it's the more like conservative sort of thing. And the absolutism one is pretty much always on the right spectrum, but the depending on if you're like European or American, if you're Eastern or Western, there will be like people will consider individualism to be a leftist value, or they will consider individualism to be a rightist value. So it was kind of a fascinating thing that he made in there. But there's shoot, I forgot what was the thing that you had said at the beginning. You were saying that like he talked about freedom as being a thing that everyone should chase after, with or at
Don't
least the thing that.
don't
Go ahead.
don't be willing to sacrifice yourself unnecessarily if freedom is not an option. So for me,
Yeah.
why I think that this one is important is that I think this is a great way to distinguish between noble sacrifice and martyrdom for the sake of martyrdom, which is like, if you're actually trying to achieve the thing, it is the thing that you care about, and you're doing it not just for yourself, but for other people as well. It is worth pursuing.
Yeah.
If there is no hope of achieving the outcome, there is no sacrifice because it is meaningless. You've ultimately kind of just self-deleted. So it's the big thing. Yes, I see all of our friends here giving us the classic "Give me liberty, give me death," and like, yes, I think that this is this one stood out for me particularly because I think that this is definitely kind of like a classic American value. But at the same time, over the years, I think people might have lost some sight about what it truly means and what's the difference between the two things. And even in your normal average day-to-day life, even outside of the military and stuff, sometimes it feels like some people are just kind of like throwing themselves on the grenade for no reason over just like little stuff. And it's like, you're not really getting anything out of it other than kind of just like appeasing ego at this point. So it's like, if you are willing to make the sacrifices, make sure they're worthwhile. Otherwise, you should probably wait for the thing that is more worthwhile to fight over.
And an interesting take is like the person making the sacrifices who gets to decide, like, is it worthwhile, And so like a person can have a totally askew perspective compared to everyone else. And so you can be like, yeah, I'm totally dying for the right cause. And literally no one else ever cares or does anything with it. But like, if he's like that in his own mind, then it's like, fucking cool beans. You can decide that pile of cow shit is worth $1 million. Like, I'm not going to pay for it, but you certainly can. So, and then there's also on the flip side, like a person in that sort of position, like the give me liberty or give me death, or like the, what Arceus was saying, shout out to live free but don't die. New Hampshire wouldn't approve. New Hampshire's state motto is live free or die, and it's kind of like the whole. They're very libertarian and freedomy up here, but like one of the ways that it could be interpreted is like, yeah, the me exists beyond just my own, self. The me could be the people that are around me that I also care about. So that could be the idea of the oneness that is like the Tao. Like, I am not just the single little microbiome inside of my stomach. I am the collective, the whole thing. And so like, you might be able to kill my body, but you cannot kill me, because I am, everyone. I am the idea of New Hampshire. I am the idea of freedom. I am the idea of all the people that are around me. And so like, there's tons of ways to interpret it, and it's really just all kind of framing. And whoever the reader is, whoever the interpreter is the person who gets to do the framing. So at least that's in my perspective. So that was a thought that I was having while you were describing that. See.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I probably picked up just like the smallest little difference to go on a soapbox about, but I do think that one is important. And it's like, look, if you are proclaiming freedom as the highest good thing there, you also got to understand what it means and what it doesn't mean. And I think that it's kind of the classic American meme of just like, oh, my freedom and my guns. And it's like, no, it's more than that. It is so much more than that. Just boiling it down to, I want to be fat and eat Cheetos and then have an AR-15 that I'm never going to use because I'm out of fighting shape. It's like, no, that's not what that means.
I'm gonna do tons of Trigun and never actually like go fight for the things that
Yeah,
I'm,
you can clear that stage in 30 seconds, but you can't get to the next mile marker in less than 15.
Yes. Hang on a second. I gotta ask. Which was the chapter that talked about? Oh shoot, not the definition of values, but the correlation between freedom and responsibility. Which chapter talked about about the correlation between freedom and responsibility? Because the two are like inexorably tied to each other. Bam. Wow, I have fucked up all of those typing words. I can't like think and talk and type at the same time. Chapter 8 though. Chapter 8 talks about freedom requiring responsibility. Yeah, freedom is not the absence of consequences. It's like the more that you have and the more ability that you have, the more like you are responsible for your choices and the more accountability and like authority, accountability, responsibility. It's all tied into freedom. So the more freedom you get, the more power you get, the more like stuff you have to do. And I'm like learning to realize this like on my own property. Like it rained like crazy yesterday. And I've been like kind of digging this little creek, just kind of fucking around. And now I've got this huge, basically funnel that takes all of the water from the storm on this entire mountain and puts it in one spot, which happened to be my driveway, which is not where I wanted it because it's a gravel driveway. And so like it washed out a massive part of my driveway. And I'm like, fuck. With the freedom that comes of having this like big, massive piece of land, like comes the responsibility of like now I have to deal with each one of my decisions that I make regarding this. Like when I'm not here and I'm not cutting the grass and I'm not trimming the trees and I'm not doing anything, like it's just doing its own thing. Everything's okay. It's all hunky dory. But like as soon as I'm here and I start like changing the way that everything works together, like employing my freedom to swing an axe, I now have to deal with the responsibility of like what happens now that I've like dug holes and like fuck. So a lot of like personal relatability there. But I'm gonna go to chapter 8 right now because that was a good chapter. So freedom is, I just like magically happened to flip to it. What are the fucking odds of that?
Good
Freedom
find.
is inexorably tied to responsibility. If someone is not responsible for themselves, then they are inevitably under the authority of whomsoever is responsible for them. The feral cat is free and goes wheresoever it wishes, but nobody feeds it, and it must take care of and bear responsibility for itself. The house cat is well fed and taken care of, but it cannot go wheresoever it wishes. The cat's owner has both the responsibility and the authority over the house cat and prevents it from leaving. There is no freedom without responsibility, nor is there authority without responsibility. This is the way of nature. This is Tao. So, and then it goes on to talk about like pet owners. The pet submits to its owner for food and shelter. The child submits to their parents for food and shelter. Yada yada yada. So, as the owner, it's like your responsibility to take care of them. And if you don't, then oops, you did a bad thing. So, yeah, I really did like the discussion about freedom that they had in this bookity book. But excellent choice, Broski, for stuff that caught your eye and whatnot. Was that the I'm scrolling to the questions right now. Was that the part of the book that stood out to you the most?
That was the one that I think I remembered the best, just because like I remember hearing it and it just really just like hit me. But there's a handful of other good stuff in here. I mean, a lot of there's the book parts of the book that talk about like nature is the way that it is. You might not like it, but that's just kind of the way it is. I think one of the chapters specifically said that like sport, it was like sports and rules and laws are made by men so that they can be equal. And because they are made by man, they have the ability to have equality. Nature was not created by man. Nature abhors equality, and nature will do what it pleases. And this is the fundamental imbalance between man and nature, is that one seeks to create justice effectively, and the other just is the way that it is.
It was about, I think, I recall the thing that you're talking about. I think it was about more about like men can create rules over it than about like, or it was perhaps about enforcing equality. That's what it was. And so you can't force equality in nature, right? I mean, you can try, but eventually your efforts will run out as you die. And so like there is no equality between the trees and the moss. There is like the trees grow tall and they're big, and then the moss is nice and short and soaks up all the water, and the trees like block the sun that would kill the moss, and the moss like like retains the water so that way the tree can drink during drought periods, and they have symbiosis. And if man comes along, he's like, damn, these trees and these moss are unequal, I need to chop these trees down so that they're the same size as the moss, then like you kill them both. And like the equality cannot be forced by man in nature, because everything has its own way of interacting with each other. But because we make laws, and because we make sports, and because we make like systems and things, we have um what's the word, like authority, or like the ability to control the things that we make. And so like man can mess with its own creations, but man can't like you could take temporary dominion over the systems that flourish with or without you, but they're going to exist, irrespective of your of a person's interaction. So that was a good one.
Sure.
What did you think when you first read this book? Like, what was your like, if you had to describe the word in just, or the book in a couple words, what would it be? Like some sort of Taoist manifesto? Is it like modern wisdom? Is it like poking fun at relationships and stuff? What do you think?
I think the book definitely has a more modern tone to it, not just through some of the stories that the guy talks about, but also it seems like some of the issues are very much relevant to today's day and age. But
Mhm.
honestly, one of the first reactions I had when I was reading this, I was like, this sounds very much libertarian. But then I remember what you were telling me about the book, and you were like, no, it's like Taoist and like all this other stuff. And I was like, why does this sound the way that I think it does? So that kind of took me down a little rabbit hole and got me to some of the sources that I got to about like, where did this stuff come from? What does the author really think? Like, what does their other work look like? It's like, I think the guys released like 9 books or something, but only 2 of them are not satire.
Oh wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
Holy shit. I don't know that. I need to look up more about turd flinging monkey, which it's right there in the name.
Yeah,
Tell me about this rabbit
hole.
hole. I want to know more. I would like to know more.
Yeah, so this one got me asking the question, what other works has the author made? So notable works include Way of Monkey, 13 Rules to Not Being a Fucking Cuck, The Doll on My Balls, an adult Christmas story, The Doll on My Balls Rides Again, a sequel, Sweet Corn and Ass, Lucas the Mucus and the Meaning of Life, and then a handful of other ones.
What?
I want you to guess which 2 are the only serious ones.
I mean, I've got something of an idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Huh. Probably the
Yeah,
one about
so-
dolls and balls. Go ahead.
Yeah, that one definitely not. So kind of the line of questioning I went down with this one, I was like, okay, what are the serious ones? And it's pretty much 13 Rules and this one. And the way it was described to me is that 13 Rules is very much like a practical guide on like how to act, versus this book is actually more of an explanation of the other book, which is like, this is the why behind the what. So
Mhm.
this is kind of creating the worldview versus the other book. Live in harmony with reality, meaning over happiness, self-mastery, ideals matter, and then what's called the political trichotomy. It's the triangle that you showed earlier. It's trying to balance freedom, equality, and stability or tradition. And pretty much it kind of boils down to like, if your priority is to have more freedom, you're obviously going to have less equality and stability. If your goal is equality, you're going to have less freedom and stability. And if your goal is stability, you're going to have less freedom and equality. And kind of just like, what are those different things and how do they go down? But as far as some of the ideas behind it, it's like the philosophical basis, the Taoism. Key ideas are like flow with reality rather than fight it, accepts the limits of your control. Simplicity is often superior to complexity. Excessive striving can be self-defeating. And then other influences are like Stoicism and Plato and stuff like that, which is like focus on what you control, take responsibility for your actions, develop resilience, and then view adversity as training. And then the other key part of this one is when you get into the Plato stuff, that's where you get stuff like truth matters, virtue matters, excellence matters. Humans should improve themselves by striving towards higher ideals. So it's this single book for me, try to dissect it. It's not, this is definitely like the reason I read this is like, this is one modern person's like take on their philosophy or their view of the world, is because it pulls from a bunch of different things, as we just listed out there. Because there's stuff about relationships, there's stuff about power, there's stuff about government, freedom, purpose, all that kind of stuff. None of this stuff really stems from one place, but it's really just the interweaving of all of it together to create this philosophy. And to be honest with you, you mentioned at the beginning, which is like the author comes from the MGTOW community, which is part of the red pill manosphere type stuff, which has definitely been very popular as of the last decade. And I can understand and I can see the influence behind that and stuff, but this is not just like YouTube clickbait about like, oh, these stupid 304s. It's like, no, a guy actually sat down, kind of has like thought about this and is like, all right, stoicism, good. Understanding reality, good. Science and observable truth, also good. Living in society kind of sucks, but we do it for a very specific reason that we strayed away from. And then purpose and freedom are two very integrally tied together things in this one, because he's very big on, you kind of have to find your purpose, and at the same time it's going to be hard to find your purpose without the freedom to do so. So that's really where all this kind of took me. And then it also brought up the idea of existentialism. That's where the whole purpose stuff comes from. And the existentialism is, the key question is, if the universe does automatically not provide meaning, how should I live? Some people said that humans are not born with predetermined purpose. It's like the idea that a hammer has a purpose before it was made. It was designed to hammer nails. Humans are different. You exist first, and then you have to figure out what you want to become. And the argument kind of boils down to like, society cannot give you this meaning. Religion cannot give you this meaning automatically. Politics can't give you the meaning. Even family can't give you meaning. And then at that point, it kind of transfers from, okay, well, if that, and then you just have the freedom in this world, does it mean that freedom means doing whatever I want? Or is it that freedom means I am responsible for what I become? And that's where the existential answer comes in, which is that freedom means you are responsible for what you become. It's like, yes, you have self-autonomy, but that's different from freedom. It's like, just because you can just wave your arms around and like, I don't know, walk 2 blocks if you want, that's not freedom, that's self-autonomy. The freedom comes with the responsibility aspect that you alluded to earlier, which is like, you have a responsibility to yourself. There's many points in the book where the guy talks about like, at the end of the day, you're all you got. You can build community, you can build friendships, you can build family, but at the end of the day, if you are incapable of taking care of yourself, you don't have freedom, you don't have meaning, and you're not going to be able to help any of these other people that you just referenced. That kind of stuff.
And also, like, you're going to be with yourself your entire life. You're like I'm only going to exist in DRT for a percentage less than 100 of my entire life. You know, like my children, I'm not going to be around them my entire life. Whatever communities I build, whatever jobs I go to, whatever like people I hang out with and influence, like they only get like little snippets of me, right? But I'm going to be there the whole time. So if I'm constantly like giving my entirety to the little snippets at the ignorance or at the disposal of, you know, paying attention to myself or taking care of myself, then like I'm essentially just like throwing money down a hole that's only going to give a partial payout, as opposed to like investing in the thing that's always going to be there, that's always going to be around. And so it's like, I think that's the point that he was making in there, or something to that extent, right?
Yeah, that's true. I think I referenced it at the beginning of the show, but there's a question that comes after kind of like the existential discovery, which is like, you have a responsibility to better yourself in alignment with your morals or your values. Okay, what are your morals or values? How do you discover that kind of stuff? The answer that the author gives in this one is something that existentialism appears to have to deal with a lot, which is you got to pretty much choose something, because existentialism is not going to provide a moral framework on your own. You have to look something else. So in the case of the author, going for the Platonism, that's saying truth, excellence, beauty, wisdom, and virtue are treated as higher ideals. That is the moral framework. If you're aiming for truth, excellence, beauty, wisdom, and virtue, those are the things. And then Stoicism teaches you how to kind of accomplish those things. And then Taoism also comes in here and tells you to stop fighting reality and just accept reality. So the existentialism can't answer all the questions. You have to find the other answer. The answer that the author gives is actually a lot of the classical philosophy that we've talked about, whether it's natural law, kind of the Socratic ideals or the Plato and Aristotelian ideals.
Aristotelian. What a good word.
It's pretty much just like
Aristotle stuff.
anything from Aristotle.
Oh man, that was another part of the
good,
book that I thought was hilarious. When he talks about like the purpose of language is to communicate. The purpose of communicate is to share an idea with someone and like be on the same wavelength as them. So if in the process of communication people are using words and thoughts and ideas and terms and things that are unfamiliar to the other, then it's like congratulations, you're not communicating. You're just like
You're just being
engaging in
unproductive.
exposition or whatever, it's like, and some people like, and this isn't to say that it's a bad thing, right? Like people should know like a certain amount of words and terms in order to be able to communicate, and also like in addition to knowing and understanding the words and terms, like people should be able to like translate their ideas up and also translate their ideas down to be able to communicate with a wider swath of um potential counterparts, as opposed to just like, oh, I can only communicate to people that are on my level or something like that. And it's just like, people will be limited by that sort of thing. So I thought that part of the book was quite amusing and quite interesting. It's like, hey, speak the language of the people that you're speaking to, because otherwise you're just what is it you like to say, fucking sitting on a soapbox sending emails to yourself or some shit like that.
Shouting into the void.
Shouting into the void. Yeah. Do you think that he makes a strong case for freedom being natural in the book?
I think halfly so. The reason I say that is that because of just the nature of how long the book is and just how much stuff he gets through, it's not really a detailed reasoned argument of like giving examples and logical trains and that kind of stuff. It's more of just making multiple observations about reality in the form of a parable and then letting that speak for itself. It's kind of the idea that if it's true, these things should be like, anybody who reads this should be able to identify and understand the point, as opposed to give you the bullet point reasons of like, this is true because XYZ, and then as a result, these logical things follow. These are testable by these corner cases. No, it's not that. It's just the parables that kind of get you to realize what the author's going for. He's kind of just spinning or creating the little like visual image in your head that you're supposed to recognize as, oh, this is reality. This is how he sees reality, and that other views of reality might be in conflict with that.
That's one of the best ways to get people to learn something, is to just drop the breadcrumbs and then they do the work themselves, as opposed to
exactly
bullet point, therefore. It's like I tell them a story and then they draw the conclusions themselves and they listen to the story because they're interested, and now they've earned the knowledge. Damn, that's good.
It is.
I was thinking about that. I would say that he did a strong case under those things. The opposite half of that question is like, is he projecting his values onto like a manifesto or something? And I was like, no, that one kind of missed the mark there.
I think the answer, hear me out. I think the answer to that question is actually also yes. The reason I think it's not as egregious, and you kind of arrived at your answer, is that a lot of the stuff he's done, this is very much logical thinking. You can follow the exact trains of logic back to their source and where they came from the philosophical standpoint. Nowhere in here does it really inject religion at all, or any sort of like higher metaphysical level type of morality to it. What it's really referring to is it refers back to the original philosophers of like Greece and Rome, and then also natural law. Because of those two things, it provides a very stable foundation for thinking, because that's what all this is. A lot of the old philosophy was just logical thinking and trying to discover things about the world instead of try to have any sort of metaphysical element to it.
Yeah.
So
let's eliminate as much of the like, why is God making it rain, and be like, what happens before it rains? Let's pay attention,
Correct. Exactly. So as a result of that, is he injecting his values into the view of the world? Yes. At the same time, there's a logical explanation for all of them.
Yeah. I would say he does a pretty good job. And then also, like, I hadn't thought about the storytelling aspect, but like you definitely, like, you hit that one like right there on the head. Regarding equality and freedom, do you think that he oversimplified saying that like equality is the opposite of freedom, or do you like I could certainly see how there's a tie between the two, but I want to get your thoughts on that.
This might be a little odd or hard to follow. So I think the way that he describes it is that there's actually another step between freedom and equality. And it goes back to the passage that I've referenced as well. I have it here, by the way. It says, men can make that which they create fair. Men create referees in sports because men created sports and the rules that govern them. Men create judges and courts of law because men created the law that governs themselves. Men did not create nature, nor the laws which govern nature, and can never make nature fair. When men wished to fly like birds, they were subject to the constraints of nature, and so they built machines that allowed them to fly. Had men rather created laws and governments to make gravity illegal or clip the wings of birds to make them equal to men, it would have accomplished nothing but harm and sorrow. Those who call for fairness and equality by force do nothing but harm. They do not even help those they profess to benefit, but harm all. Okay, so take that one, conjoin it with all the other ones when it comes to freedom, but also the other ones where he talks about society. Society is very clearly something he sees as which is made by man. And if it is made by man, it can be made fair. Conversely, freedom is beyond men, was not created by men, and really cannot be granted by men outside of just not messing with each other. So in that case, I think that he sees, his view would be that freedom is something outside of men and equality is something created by men. So to try to say that these things are just like completely different, it's like, yeah, I get it, but you kind of got to take the steps to get there. I think the author's whole purpose for equality is closer to justice, which is that justice and fairness, which is that the equality you really should strive for in a society is understanding that when you come together in a society, you are accepting restraint upon yourself for the betterment of a community, a nation, a state, whatever it is. There's going to be trade-offs with this, but at the same time, what fairness and justice do inside of the system is it ensures that no man is greater than another, especially in the ultimate eyes of the law or punishment through the law, that kind of stuff. Yeah. So again, even inside of this, there's still a recognition of both. The passage about the trees are taller than the moss, but they both need each other to live. It's like not all men are going to be the same, but at the same time, when we inject all these people that are different into society, we still have to treat them the same. But it's still the understanding. It's a balance. It's understanding that you're going to be different. There are the workers, there are the laborers, and then there's the farm owner. They're good at different things. They all kind of need each other to survive. And if you try to drive the landowner out, the farmer out, the laborers are not going to be able to run the farm. Conversely, the farmer was not able to do the laborer's job until he hired other laborers. In this case, it was machines. It's that kind of stuff. So I think the author sees these two as both very necessary, but they can contradict each other at times. But at the same time, I think he would argue when society works best, both of these things are also at their best, which is you have a fair and just society, but you also have one that allows people to pursue their own freedoms. But at the same time, they all still come back together to live in harmony and pursue all of their freedom in conjunction with each other.
On the subject of like the people interacting with each other in the societies and stuff, I want to get your take on his comparison between democracy and monarchy or like autocracy.
I think that this passage really it was like you can have different structures, but at the end of the day, if the results are the same, how different are they really?
Yeah, like the democracy, you got 51% ruling over the 49%. This is 49% of people are having a shitty life, and then like for the folks at home who like didn't read this section, like his comparison was like, when 51% controls 49%, there's 49% of people that are getting fucked. And when one person is in charge of everyone, you've got a large percentage of people getting fucked. So like, what is the justice? What is the difference? Like, what is the moral good of a whole bunch of people or one person fucking over a whole bunch of others? Like that's just for the folks at home to give it a quick little
I got the passage here for you if you want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Please.
All right. Number 29. A monarch, emperor, or dictator is one man forcing his will upon all the rest of the people. A democracy is 51% of the people forcing their will upon the other 49%. What difference does it make to the 49% that they live in a democracy and not a dictatorship? What moral authority does democracy have to impose its will that a dictator does not have? What moral obligation do people have to obey a corrupt majority that would not also compel them to dutifully obey a corrupt dictator as well? A man living under a dictatorship may be able to hide his eyes from one man easily, but how can he hide from half of his countrymen? A monarch, emperor, or dictator is the tyranny of one against the many, while democracy is the tyranny of many against the one.
Would you think that's accurate?
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to it than just that synopsis. But again, what I'm saying is like the point of the passage is to talk about, does it matter the structure if the result is the same?
Yeah.
And even if the result is the same, what's the difference in application? Because
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, the point is, like, he has the questions here. Where does the moral authority come from for each system? What moral obligation do people have to obey this system? How effective can you be at actually avoiding the system if you disagree with it? These are kind of fundamental questions for governance and society. Yeah. And again, he's asking a moral question, which comes back to what is the moral foundation? Again, we're not going to find it in this passage. It's something you have to answer for yourself. But also it's kind of goes to the idea of like, okay, if there's 2 wolves and 1 sheep and they live together in a society, the 2 wolves vote to eat the sheep for dinner.
Yep.
Is that not just
democracy? It's just. We voted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like just the act of voting does not grant things moral authority. It's things done with moral obligation and moral authority have moral authority and obligation.
There's popularity at that point. It's like, and like, what is the moral authority of popularity? It's like, it's not necessarily moral authority. It's just popularity. So
true.
I think that
this passage, I think, is really a criticism of democracy as opposed to dictatorship. And again, this is one of those things that I think is very much taken in a modern context, because how often these days do you hear people talking about, oh, we have to save the democracy. Oh, he's a threat to democracy. It's like, one, we're not a democracy, but I understand what you're trying to get at here. And 2, it's like, just being a democracy doesn't make it good. If the action is not good, the outcome regardless will not be good.
We're a democratic republic. We vote for the people who represent us as opposed to just vote for the thing. But like, it's so convoluted and so complicated and so far from the original intention that it's like, is it really if people want an idea of democracy, they need to go play Helldivers 2. And that's a pretty accurate representation. Democracy
is I am voting myself to throw a impact grenade at my teammate.
Liberty. Yeah. What a fun game. But yeah, if the outcome is the same, then like, is one better than the other? You know, and the outcome is basically like an outcome is just a whole bunch of people that get to decide the value of a thing. And if people decide that they don't value something and you force it on them and they don't want to be forced, then you're making slaves out of them. And now remember, guys, slavery is legal per the United States Constitution. Article 13, if a person is duly committed of a crime, then you can put them in slavery. So just remember that. Yeah. Hooray, America. All right, next question. Speaking of fun questions and stuff, can a nation survive without the shared values? Or what do you think about that? Is shared values like, is it forced conformity? Or like what even is a nation? Do you think that he accurately described nations as just being like people with shared values, like not necessarily like the concept, right? Not the literal legal definition of like, you know, borders and citizenship and social security numbers and blah 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 blah. Shared values.
From the standpoint of like, I guess not theology or the ideology behind it, which is like a nation is a group of people with shared values. It's like theoretically, yes, that would be the perfect, most pure definition of it. But that is also ignoring the reality of the situation on the ground, which is that, one, you're not even a fully adult until you're like 18, and you're not even fully developed until later after that. So can you even consent to this kind of a stuff? 2, there are people born into this stuff. You don't really have a choice where you are when this kind of thing starts. So you might be born into an area where you don't share the values. So it's like, from the pure fundamental view of what is a nation, yes, that is a nation. A nation is people with a shared values, whether it's culture, history, heritage, mission, whatever it is. That makes sense. But it's a lot more complicated than that, because trying to achieve that kind of requires people to just come into existence fully formed and just be able to self-sort perfectly without any hindrance at all. And it's like, yeah, this is the goal, but at the same time, you got to understand that you're never going to get there, and you can't let imperfection get in the way of progress. So it's like, okay, so we know that this is the ideal. How do we best get close to the ideal, or the closest that we possibly can? And I think trying to have a nation where it does instill those values makes sense. To answer your other question that you asked, is can a nation survive without shared values? To that, I think the answer is actually no.
Yeah.
Because that's where you start to see, especially in
Germany.
nations many years ago,
France.
probably centuries and millennia. It's
Right.
like once you started to see different factions forming with different values and competing interests, that's when nations start to really splinter and crumble. It's a lot
Yugoslavia.
easier. Correct.
All gone.
It's a lot easier to kind of hold it together in today's day and age, because I think we're a lot more tied together because of all the complex systems and stuff that we've built. But at the same time, those systems also blend the lines or mix the values amongst people. It's kind of, it goes to the idea that like some people view the United States now as just like an economic zone as opposed to a nation, which is like there was a time when we were a nation with shared values and history and culture and sacrifice that was made to claim the land and claim self-governance, that kind of stuff. But over the years, it's like the country has experienced a lot of expansion from a lot of systems that we've developed, whether it's just like literally like geographic or also financial and that kind of stuff. So it's like, I mean, again, it goes back to like the other episodes that we cover where I say these things with a heavy heart, not because I'm happy about it, but it's like, yeah, as it stands right now, you can very clearly see that United States is starting to have different sets of values, and the talk of civil war, national divorce has only been growing in number since those times have become more identifiable.
There's also tons of things about the United States that people don't know and understand. Like there's different levels of nationality. Like, why do we have Hawaii? When did the United States get Hawaii? I want to say it was the 1950s because they had pineapples. That's the TLDR of it. Is like, we want your pineapples. You belong to us now. Congratulations. But like take a look at like American Samoa. When people look at Samoa, they don't think of like, oh, America. But American Samoa is an outlying territory of the United States, and they are not US citizens. They are nationals of the United States. They are nationals, they're not US citizens. So it's like they were very, very, very particular about the legal definition of their identities when it came to the United States, because they saw like what the US had done to Puerto Rico and what it had done to like other places, and like the impositions and the things that like happened within the states and like definitions and yada yada yada. And so like anyway, like there's tiers within that whole, within that whole system that like people don't even know and understand. And it's like we do have borders and we do have customs and things. I was up doing yoga up by the border yesterday. Like I could look over the lake up here and see Canada, and they were like, yeah, when it freezes in the winter, you can't like cross the magical US and Canada line or they'll come get you on the ice. But like, when it's summertime, you can take your boats out wherever you want and yada yada yada. Just don't go and like dock on the Canadian side if you're American, and don't come dock on the American side if you're Canadian. So it was like, this is super funny. But I forgot what were you talking about? Fuck.
You asked me the question,
shared values.
can a nation exist without shared values?
Yeah. And I think I would agree with your assessment of no, that it can't really exist. And like you see all of the rioting that's happening over in France, all of the disdain that's happening over in Germany, all of the craziness that's happening in Ireland and England with all of these like all this immigration that's happening from like Africa and the Middle East, of all these people that are moving over there. And there's just a ton of very unhappy locals, and they are just getting pissed, and there's like riots and there's all sorts of shit going on. And it's like, there's different people from different parts of the world that are influxing into a place, and the people that are like hanging out at first, they're like, oh yeah, come on in, no problem. And then it's like I have a friend up in Sweden, and she was telling me like how much everyone just hates Somalians. Like they hate them because initially the Swedish government took in a whole bunch of Somalis, and then they just started doing crimes up there. And now like Sweden has a hand grenade problem. Like more than gun problems, they have hand grenade problems, and it's like, holy shit. So like a lot of Swedes just hate Somalis now because like, you bring in a bunch of people with different ideals and different standards and different like ways of living. Like over in Norway, they're super communistic, but it works for them. That's their system. They like truly believe in like equality higher than individualism, and that's fine. More power to you. They have a
Yeah,
very unique system over there.
the breakdown of all these things is that it's different groups with different values. So
Mhm.
like, was it Norway you said as
Norway,
the
yeah.
very collective one? Norway.
Mhm. Socialist would be a
Because
better way to say than communist.
yeah, but here's the thing is that do the people inside of that system all have the same values? If the answer is yes, odds are it's probably going to work
Yep.
out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The other one comes from the other examples you gave, which is that I would argue it started out with two different value sets. There was the value set of the citizens of the nation. There's the value set of the elites. And the elites are more concerned about sharing a value set with the other elites in Europe as opposed to their countrymen. And as a result, you get the policies where they started having a lot of immigrants come in. And then the
Yep.
immigrants bringing their own third set of values. And a lot of the
Yes.
conflict that we're seeing right now is the conflict or the friction between those value sets because the immigrants have a way of doing things in their home country that they wish to keep with them, and the people native to those lands have their own value sets, and where those things come in conflict, that's where we see all the craziness. So yeah, I think or just saying that a nation is a group of people with shared values, I think it sounds very simplistic, but it's really just the basis of so much of everything else.
Oh yeah. It would be the tip of the iceberg, but it does do a good job of describing the general idea and the general consensus. Like
Correct.
if you don't get along with your neighbors, then like you're not going to be a good communal block. You're not going to have good block parties with like jambalaya and lasagna free flowing. You're going to be all like, "Oh, yeah, I can't believe that fucking James Smith and Eric are fucking throwing baseballs into our yard all the time and their dog barks and blah 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 blah." And it's like, people come together with shared values. It's like people who go to church together. They get along a whole lot better than people that like are totally different and have different value sets. Sports ball fans too. You know, if you're a sports ball fan of red team and the blue team guys are around, and it's like no nation right there. But you meet another, red team guy or another whatever color I had said, and it's like, hey, we're gonna make our own little nation. So very cool. I want to get into the consequences. Consequences thing. Chapter 17. Consequences are teachers. Reality doesn't care about intentions. Um, Should we protect people from consequences, Zenith? Is that a good idea? Should we embrace them and be like mother hen protecting her little chickadees from the raindrops?
I think this also is tied to the responsibility question.
Mhm.
If it is a consequence that is of their own, something that was directly their responsibility, I think the answer is no. But later on in the book, we do start talking about societies and also how you can't really have a nation of people that don't want to deal with other people, because then you're just going to be conquered by the nearest warlord that is able to overthrow you. So it's like consequences of your own actions. No, that's ultimate responsibility is yours. But consequences of some of the things that are outside of your control that are in the control of other folks, the answer is yes. It's why we have a duty to protect innocence and that kind of stuff.
Innocence being the key word, and also
Correct.
like I think that there's some more nuance that like you shouldn't allow people to just get destroyed of their own volition if it's like catastrophic and they can't recover from it, you know. But like for
Correct.
the
At that
most part,
point,
it's like
again, at that point though, it raises up the responsibility question, which is that you don't have the ability or authority anymore. Then at a certain point, you've kind of lost that autonomy. In which case, yeah, you're kind of no longer you're not able to control the consequences anymore. Therefore, the consequences are almost outside of your control. But to get to that point, you have to be pretty far gone and not good at all.
and I think that like um oh shoot, I had a point and I totally just blanked. It was something along the lines of like we want people to generally be more wealthy. That's what it was. The homeless analogy. Like
We're just hitting all the spicy topics today. Okay, sweet. Let's do
yeah,
this.
yeah. So the homeless analogy was the one is the one that I inferred from it, where it's like you shouldn't feed the homeless people and just give them free stuff you should give them the tools to help themselves, to pull themselves out of the thing. So like, it's way better to go to the homeless person and give him a flyer for like a place that's hiring and be like, hey bro, do you need like a shower or a set of nice clothing or something, and I could take you to this place that's hiring. um Way better to do that than to give them a fucking sandwich, or to like give them a $20 bill or whatever. Because like, if you empower the bad decision making, or if you give people things for free and they don't earn it, then they're not going to appreciate it. They're not going to do anything with it. It's better to give people the tools to make themselves better than it is to like just straight up give them money and things. And I that chapter really resonated with me. I can't remember if that's the same one, if that has anything to do with the one that we were talking about, but that's what this discussion brought to mind. Um, Shoot, I can't find it, but that was so. Oh yeah, that has to do with the consequences. So it's like, people need to learn things. And when people learn things, they become more empowered. And when they become more empowered, they're better off, and they're more knowledgeable, and they're more of an asset. And like, if you just constantly like give your resources to people who aren't an asset yet, then you're just basically throwing money down the drain, or like attention down the drain, or your time down the drain. Worst of all, right? Throwing your time and attention down the drain. Like, you can make more money, but you can't make more time, and you can't make more attention. Like, those are, yeah, like, strictly limited. So like, giving those things to people that don't deserve them, or to people that aren't going to like do anything as a result of you giving it, it's going to be a big fucking waste. So I think let the people suffer the consequences, to bring it all back. That's my big broad brushstrokes answer to the thing, is like, oh, you made the bed, now lay in it.
Yeah, that I think is the best and correct answer. But I think a lot of the issues that we see, specifically surrounding stuff like homelessness and all the other social issues and stuff, is that it's just fundamentally a misunderstanding of the actual root causes and desires of the people involved. Because it's like you said, giving a person a sandwich is just going to feed them for a day. But if you really want to try to help them out, you got to try to help them get on the path that leads out of there. But there's a big difference here, is that in order to get on that path, you have to want to be on that path. If you want to be homeless, guess what? No matter how much people try to help you get a job, you're just going to continue to be homeless because that's what you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds stupid to be like, why would anyone want to be homeless? And it's like, this
it's not
issue,
that they want to be homeless. It's just that the pain of change is greater than the pain of staying the same.
Correct. And what they are pursuing are things that leave them homeless. Homelessness is not the goal. It is the outcome of the thing that they have chosen to pursue.
Yep. The immediate gratification over the delay. Wow, we keep coming back to this theme in the Degen Roundtables. Immediate gratification.
Wow.
Yep. Thanks, Ricky Hart. Hey, I wish that this I wish this gratification didn't have to be so fucking delayed. I wish it'd be much more immediate. Fuck.
Would be cool.
Sure would be nice, man. But like,
that's not how it works.
Like, it's the same thing regarding like overweight people. You know, people that are overweight, they are much more fond of or rather, they are much less motivated by the pain of change than they are by the pain of staying the same. And so like, what do you see? It's like, well, the pain of people calling me fat, or of me being fat and just realizing it, or like having to, huff and puff going upstairs, or whatever, right? That pain is less motivating than the pain of having to eat less or go exercise. Like, that pain is worse and greater than the other one. And so until the scale goes in the opposite direction, then people keep doing the same thing, because people generally do what is like the easiest, or what is the most likely, or what they have the energy for, or whatever. Just as a sweeping generality, people generally do what's easiest. And what is easy? Easy is something that the person who's looking at the thing decides to assign the value of. The person can decide, this value is hard, I'm not going to do it. This value is easy, I am going to do it. Right? And we have the power within ourselves to be like, oh, this thing looks hard, but I'm going to tell myself that shit's way easier than doing the other thing. Like, it certainly is hard to diamond hand these fucking bags that are down, 97% from wherever we bought them, or whatever the hell, right? It sure is hard to hold on to this value at this crazy low. But in my head, I will decide that it's harder to be poor for the rest of my life than it is, or like I'll make up a bad guy and be like, that's even worse than this other thing. And so like the ultimate like thing to take away from this is like, we each as individuals have the power to determine what is easy and what is hard. And if we say that something is easy, then it's easy. If we say that something is hard, then it is hard. If we decide to believe wheresoever on the spectrum we choose for something to fall, then that's what it is. That's what it becomes. And so speaking empowering language into a person's life, speaking and avoiding disempowering language and being like, oh, that thing's hard, so shouldn't do it. Or, oh, this thing is like not likely, so shouldn't do it. It's like you can eliminate that stuff from your mental feed trough and live a way better life and do way better things. So I'm sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a diatribe here. I think that's the right word. A little bit of a monologue.
There you
go. How much of life, Zenith, is actually under your control?
I say this is a positive thing, okay?
Yeah.
Not that much.
Not that much. Okay. Would you care to elaborate?
Yes. So the world is a very large place full of many other people. Can't control very much of that. You can control you, and you're one small part of it.
Ooh,
You can have
I've got an
influence
analogy.
in some other areas, but at the end of the day, realistically, when it comes to a lot of the stuff we interface with, we are not in control in a vast majority of it. We're in control if we can interact with it and how we interact with it, but outside of yourself and your immediate sphere of influence, yeah, we're just yelling into the void at the Federal Reserve guys.
It's like you imagine you're the train on the tracks. You can't control everything that's off the tracks, but you can control, am I going forwards? Am I going backwards? How much coal am I putting into the engine? How fast are we going?
Yes, sir.
Are we going to hit those brakes? Right? We've got the things that are in our control and the path that we're set on. And, maybe we see a fork. Maybe we see one of those like railroad switches or whatever. We go like, ooh, I'm going to go left, I'm going to go right. But like, we're still on the tracks. So you have the freedom to control the things that are inside your little lane, and everything outside of that, not so much. A bird can't grow a clamshell around itself and burrow into the mud like a clam. And a fish can't fly. Well, maybe they can, but flying fish or whatever, I don't know. A prawn can't fly. I've never seen a flying prawn or a flying shrimp. So we live within the constraints. Like the prawn is free within the ocean, and we are free within our lives. So
it's true.
I
Never
think
seen a
that-
shrimp fly, but I have seen a shrimp fry rice.
Shrimp fry. Do you mean to tell me, sir, that a shrimp fried this rice?
Damn straight.
One of my favorite. All right. We'll do a couple more questions before we move to close inning. Did you have any thoughts or any questions that you want to? I'll give you an opportunity to say a piece or to think a thought, if you would like.
Do you think there's anything that the author did not cover when it comes to kind of like building the worldview with this book? Is there any area that you felt like was not explored specifically?
He didn't really talk about economics a whole lot, but that's a whole thing. He mostly covered like philosophy and like relationships, so all of like the mental stuff and the dealing with people stuff, which is pretty good. I'm sorry, can you state your question again?
Is there anything that you think the author did not cover? Or are there any like big holes that you kind of see? Yeah.
Man, I don't really.
I know I'm asking. This is a very open-ended and tough question, so I do apologize.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I will say that the way that I read books is very like open mind, and I just remove everything else that's not the book. So like when I'm consuming a book, I'm just in the mindset of like, this person knows a lot of things and I'm just gonna listen. There wasn't anything. I suppose he could have given the religion parts a little bit more grace, but he explained it very well. And so like even that he did a pretty damn good job of. I don't know. I can't think of anything. Is there something that you think he could have done better on?
I think mine's a little more abstract, but I can definitely tell that the author who wrote this is very much someone that exists and lives today in the modern world.
Yeah.
A lot of the book kind of it appears to be going for things that are more timeless and not specifically applicable to modernity, even though I think the author does believe that a lot of this stuff is applicable today. As a result, there's obviously going to be a lot left out, and it's not going to cover a lot of different stuff. Like, it's not really chapters talking about like how to make money and stuff like that, or like what, like, do you have a responsibility to make money, that kind of things. Just talk
He's
about like
shouting out Discords and Patreons. So yeah, he definitely does come from the day of today.
Yeah.
And I think it was November of 2022 is when this book was made. But I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
Oh, you're good. Yeah, the guy talks about like there are certain people or roles that you can occupy that do have responsibilities to kind of like take care of and care for other people if that's what you choose to do, but not really kind of like not a whole lot on like kind of like finding your place in the world. A lot of this is like trying to exist outside of the world, even though there's a good chunk of it that does talk about like building nations and cultures and communities and that kind of stuff. Like, if I had to put it this way, I think so some of the other like power books that we've talked about, they're more practical in the sense of like how to actually enact strategies within the world. This is more observations of the world, if you will.
Yeah. It reminds me a little bit of like Rollo Tomasi compared against other
I mean, the classic Rolloism would apply here, which is like what is it, people will hate you if you tell them, if you make them feel a certain way but don't tell them what to do about it.
Yeah. I think that like, but this book reminded me a lot of like just looking under the engine and seeing how the engine works, not like saying how to drive or teaching a person where to go or like how to change a tire or whatever. This is just like the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, it's observational. It's not prescriptive.
Yeah.
I mean, it is somewhat prescriptive, but it's not just like, boom, go do this.
Mm-hmm. I did like him talking about nations being collectives of people that have shared ideals and things, because like I would like to build a theoretical nation, not like a brick and mortar nation or like a nation that has land. But I was thinking, one of the things that Brandon Joe Williams was talking about is like nations give out passports, and like one of the hardest passports to get in the world is oh shoot, what is it called? It's like the Knights Columbus of Malta or something, or the Knights of the Order of Malta, which is like, it's not a place. It is not a physical place. They have like an office in the Vatican, but there are 5 citizens of this entire like citizens, and there's like 200 passport holders of this like nation. And so it's like, it's an abstract thing. It's not a real nation. Like the United Nations, the UN is not an actual nation, believe it or not, but it is like a collective of people who share ideas and values. And so it's like a nation can be made. And I think it's like per 18 USC subsection 2600 or some shit like that. It talks about like the United States Code anyways talks about how it recognizes or how foreign nations can exist whether or not the United States recognizes them from a legitimacy perspective. There is a process that nations can apply to be recognized by the United States, but like there's tons of like Native American nations that exist that aren't like formally recognized by the United States. And so like on like a small scale, like the nation of the DGen Roundtable, it's a bunch of assholes that like might get together or like talk to each other on the internet, or like what is a nation and what does it do? Like, it's people with shared ideas and shared values. And so like it's cool if a bunch of people get together and like they think about something, but if they don't actually do anything, then like what is the purpose of the nation? Like the United Nations goes out and tries to spread peace and democracy and liberty. I don't fucking know what the UN does, but like the Knights Order of Malta, they go out, they combat, they specifically try and combat like child trafficking. That's like their thing or whatever. And like what is the purpose of a nation? Like the United States like fucking export war to the rest of the world. I don't know. Like, what is the purpose of a nation? Like, how can people build their own little nations? Like, if you can create a body politic, I think it's Black's Law that like that defines nations, Black's Law 4th edition, that defines nations as like a group of people that treat its citizens well and like interact positively with other nations. something something, not a body of pyretics. I can't remember the exact thing, but like I was a little bit fascinated by the nation building part of this stuff because it's just been a part of my
I hear
life
you.
and learning experience for the last 6 months.
All right, Book of Monkey 19. What is a nation but a large group of
Yeah.
people with a common culture that unites them? What is a culture but a large group of people with common values that unite them? If one wishes to unite themselves to a nation or a culture, they must adopt their values in turn. A nation without common values is doomed to fracture into pieces or to go to war with itself. Successful assimilation occurs when cultures share values, even if they appear different. With common values, there is peace. With diverse values, there is violence and chaos. A nation where men share goals, values, and work together will be as stable as the rocks. A nation where men advance goals and values at the expense of one another will be like sand.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yes, there should not be. What the hell? There should not. I thought my computer was echoing there for a second. There should not be violence. There should be cohesion. We'll work together.
Yeah.
And do cool things. It's an interesting thing to think about, the ability to form people together and to like build things and do stuff and like to be able to lead folks. Like that's a cool thing to do. Dang it, I was looking for the Black's Law. So the Black's Law, or actually no, this is from Vattel. I take it back. This is not from Black's Law. So this is from the Law of Nations. An independent body politic, a society of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. But every combination of men who govern themselves independently of all others will not be considered a nation. A body of pirates, for example, who govern themselves are not a nation. To constitute a nation, another ingredient is required. The body thus formed must respect other nations in general and each of their members in particular. Such a society has her affairs and her interests, so the values, and she deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and will particular to herself and is susceptible to obligations and rights. So the obligations to your citizens and the rights to those that that make up the nations, and like, or obligations to the people you contract with, and rights to the citizens that make up the nation. So hooray for Vattel and
There you go.
and all that stuff with the Law of Nations. So anyways, we're getting way off track. We barely have time for one more question. Let me find the oh man, I don't know if we have time for one more question because we've been going into these pretty deep. Ooh, Love and Acceptance, chapter 82. Probably the most Taoist chapter. Can you truly love someone while trying to control them, Zenith? Yes or no? That's all you get. One word.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that, ladies. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
I think very specifically, you can definitely, obviously, the answer for this one is like having children. You obviously love your children. You're trying to control them to a degree, but at the same time, the reason I say you are trying to control is because you have a responsibility to be a good steward to them, and as a result, you have authority over them. And based on that, I would call that control. But I think the larger question you're asking is more maybe about like possibly like romantic love or love between people that don't have that sort of like authoritative relationship. And to that, I think the answer is no, which is that if you're trying to control that person, then you're trying to have them do something that they would not normally do. I think that's kind of what's inferred by the idea of control.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't have to get them to do things that you wanted to do, you wouldn't call that control. You would just call that, like, I don't know, teamwork, or just you like the things that they do already. So I think the control word is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this question here. There's a lot of connotation behind it. And that's me trying to explain all the connotation behind it. So if you're trying to get people that you don't have authority over to do things that they do not themselves want to do, that is control. Is it possible to love them? I don't think so. Because if you're trying to get them to do things, you don't love them per se. You love when they do what you want to do, which is just pretty much like almost an extension of yourself, maybe.
Yeah, they're a machine at that point. And
Yeah.
do you love machines? Nah, because loving machines means you love yourself. I love my tool because my tool is an extension of me, and it's a testament to all the work that I've done, which basically just means that I love myself.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you I was thinking as you were talking about this, like the idea of the master and the child, or the father and the child, or the master and the slave, is like there's an imbalance in equality between the two of them, right? Like the teacher loves the student, and the teacher has authority over the student, perhaps. And then at some point, ideally, the student should graduate from being student into being like there comes a point where the master can no longer teach the student, at which point the student has to go and figure out a whole bunch of shit for himself and become his own master, at which point the master loses the student and gains a brother or something like that. I think is how he said it in the book, is like
That's a good way to describe it. I got it here for you. Number 82. When you
yeah.
give up trying to control others, then you can begin to accept them for who they are. Once you accept others, you can trust them. Once you trust them, then you can love them. Once you love them, you can see them as a part of yourself, and how your relationships with them are as much a part of you as your own body. Once you see that you're connected to other people via your relationships, you can see how you're also connected to the world without and within yourself by similar relationships. Once you see that there is no distinction between self and others, you can give up trying to control yourself just as you have others. Once you give up controlling yourself, you begin to accept yourself, then you begin to trust yourself, and finally, you begin to love yourself.
So it's all about self. It's very Ayn Randian, very objectivist.
It kind of gets a little.
It all centers about the
out
self.
there. Yeah, but I mean, we did also just go through the rest of the book, and it's like you have ultimate responsibility over yourself and your own suffering. And then this one's like, you got to give up control of yourself. It's like, I thought we spent the rest of the book saying directly, control yourself.
Yeah. And like, and now let it go. Z, what do you think? All in all about the book. It's a good book.
Yeah, good book. It'll definitely at least get you thinking about things. And I think that is the mark of a good book. And it's not like getting me thinking about things that was like, oh, this is so stupid or wrong. It's like, these are interesting thoughts, and you start to expand on them on your own. So I think, look, just based on how long it is and how much is in there already, I would already qualify it as a pretty gosh darn good book. And the fact that it gets you to really ponder things makes it
high
even better.
Signal, low noise, I would say.
Precisely.
I wish all books could be 1 hour long with this much stuff stuffed into them.
Only.
Yeah. So what do you think, though? Where should a person read this on their journey from nothingness to excellence? I'm just disregarding, economics and everything. If a person is trying to be excellent, would this book help them get there? Or we can put the frame of economics on it if you want.
This has nothing to do with economics.
I know.
I'm trying to think about this, because what is the book trying to get you to do? It's trying to make allusions and references to reality to give you a deeper understanding.
Mm-hmm.
As a result of that, it is not super high level, but it is not super basic either. It is somewhere between those two. And I think that this book definitely requires you to have a pretty healthy knowledge base of the world to truly appreciate it, I think. Because this book, I think, really does. I think it might almost be better used as kind of like self-reflection, as opposed to prescriptions for things, or even try to like teach you things about the world. It's more of getting you to try to look at the things that you've already seen and recognize some underlying truths about them that may have escaped you. So because of that, I'd say this is at least like a halfway-ish book. It's probably where I'd put it. I don't know what the scale is here, but
yeah, I think I think this is not a good starting off book. I think this is probably a book for someone to read after 2,000 4,000 hours on their journey to 10,000. So that's where I think I'd put it. It's super, like, very digestible. Anybody could pick this up and read it. But you kind of have to have like an open mind and the ability to like look at things conceptually rather than literally in order to consume this book effectively, I think. So
yeah, there's kind of an oxymoron inside of the book itself, which is that part of the Taoist teaching is that simplicity is often better than complexity. But the book itself is actually decently complex by the way it tries to tackle various subjects, and then sometimes almost comes off as contradictory. But it's a balancing point, I think, is the purpose of those seemingly contradictory sections, as we talked about, whether it's the freedom versus sacrifice, or the giving up control to love yourself as opposed to controlling yourself to control your outcomes, that kind of stuff.
There is quite a few things in there that I thought were oxymoronic.
Yeah.
couple of and it's not like blatant, but like if you just take each individual section of the book for its each individual section and like not really tie them all together, then you'll be a-okay. And one thing to
There's
remember about Taoism
yeah.
is that like if it can be named, then you shouldn't you like we shouldn't put names onto things. We just understand the concepts and think less about like the literal wordplay and the little like even Taoism. Like people don't like calling Taoism because it puts a name to the idea that is just the truth and the way and is the stuff, as it is, as it exists. And by putting a name on it, we like box it, and it's like that's kind of antithetical to the whole thing. But yeah, you had a thought there. You're about to say something.
I can't remember.
Okay. Well, since you can't remember, where can the folks find you, broski? And what do you have going on in the near future? And what's the next book for us?
All right, spoiler. I have ideas of books, but fair warning, one of them might be similar to Wealth of Nations, and it is the economics book by Ludwig von Mises. It is a heavy book, but it is a classic economics book that is up there. And then we also have the short list of things that we've gone over. So I'll have to get with you more about what we want to cover next, because
I'm down for the Mises book.
You want to do Ludwig von Mises?
Should we chunk it into multiple episodes? Like you do a section, I do a section, you do a section, I do a section. Because I've heard of it, and I've not. What is it like of money and coins or something?
Yeah, there's the theory of money and credit.
The theory of money and credit. That's the one that I remember hearing. Heard of it from like a Nick Fuentes ranting meme, by the way. This is where I was like, oh, Mises. I know Ludwig von Mises. That's a good libertarian guy that everyone's always referencing.
Let's see. Are you on Audible? That is the big question here.
Oh yeah. How should On Money and Credit by Mises?
19 hours.
Chunked
Yeah.
into DRT episodes. I'm asking ChatGPT. Multiple DRT episodes. Let's see.
I think there's.
Oh my god.
Just tell you don't try.
Do it straight through chapter by chapter. This is one of those books where the first few chapters are relatively easy. Then Mises starts building concepts on top of concepts. If you break it wrong, episode 3 becomes people staring into space, wondering where fiduciary media expansion is. Do it in 5 episodes, each built around a major idea. Chapter 1 or episode 1, what money actually is. So introduction, nature, origin. Episode 2, value of money. So ChatGPT is suggesting breaking it into 5 episodes. Just as
I will consider this and look into it. The other big economic book that we've not covered is John Maynard Keynes, The General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money.
Ooh, Keynesianism.
The literal Keynes book, yes.
Yeah, Keynesian economics. So it's Austrian and Keynesian, right?
Yes.
Which one's the good guy? Which one's the bad guy? I can never remember.
Depends which one you care about.
Is Keynes the bad guy? Or is Austrianism the bad guy?
I would in general say that the Austrian School of Economics is better than the Keynesian School of Economics.
That's what I remember hearing.
Keynesian School of Economics is a lot about government spending because it has the ability to be the single largest spender. Therefore, it can really try to help an economy along. And then the Austrian School of Economics is like, that's a great way to screw up your economy right there.
Yeah. Yep. Is there an Austrian book other than the Keynesian? I'm curious to delve into the enemy's territory.
We covered one of the Austrian schools. It was Adam Smith, Wealth of Nations, and then also, God, I'm gonna get it roasted for this. It was one of the earlier ones we did, and it was one of the ones that was not great reception. The Road to Serfdom by Friedrich Hayek.
That's right.
Yeah.
You had like a special guest on for that one, right?
Nope, I had a special guest on for one before that. That was The Law by Frederick Bastiat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. One
Austrian
of those
school,
is
Keen
significantly
school,
shorter than the other, by the way.
classical, monetarist. Oh, Milton Friedman, monetarist school. Marxian economics. Oh yeah, we haven't read any Marx.
Capital
Chicago
by Karl
School.
Marx.
Chicago School of Economics.
That's another one. Yes.
Huh.
Either
Wow.
way, we will ponder it, and I will let the good people know what we end up deciding on this one. But folks,
Yeah.
as far as I go, you can follow me on X and Instagram at ZenithDI. But more importantly, you can find our fantastic community by scanning the QR code directed right here. Inside of there, you're going to find the ongoing chat, all the fun sub channels, and all the latest and greatest posts to all the streams that we do here and that our friends do. We like pointing you to those guys as well. Outside of that, we're going to be back on Sunday for the flagship news show. This week, we are going to be talking a bit about Kevin Warsh, the new chair of the Federal Reserve. He had his first press conference on Wednesday, had some things to say, and we have some updated economic data as a potential forecast for the rest of the year. That, of course, is outside of all the other fantastic topics that we're going to be covering, including maybe a little bit of SpaceX, because guess what? They actually launched tokenized stock on the Solana blockchain, and they did over $300 million of volume on that blockchain alone. So big things happening over there. But outside of that, we're going to be back on Wednesday for Whiskey Wednesday, which is the community day where you, the people, can join us on stream to talk about whatever you want. Ask us any hard questions. Like Sam grilled me pretty good the other week, but honestly, that was one of the better ones I've been on in a hot minute. So that was
good
fun.
having
it was
you, man.
good.
That was a lot of fun.
It was. Yeah.
I'm
all of
going
our
to
streams.
send an invite to Sam to come on Wednesday. So Sam, if
all
you're
of our
watching,
streams. Yeah. Sam, we also need updates on the mountain bike race.
Yes.
All of our streams happen at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So just like this one, that's where you can find it all there. That is what I got going on. Mr. Will Stevenson, where can the folks find you, and what do you have going on in the near future?
The folks can find me in Telegram, in the DGen Roundtable Telegram. That's where you can get me. t.me/DRT. Join now. For those of you guys that are listening on audio and do not know where to find us, that's the best way to do it. As far as things I've got going on in the near future, I have to figure out how to stop drainage problems from wiping out my driveway. And
man versus nature, a time-old tale.
Yes, perhaps dig some big holes and fill them with rocks and just hope that that's good enough. But I don't know. Water's got to go downhill, so I have to get it past my driveway somehow because I'm in a switchback. So that's what I'm doing, is figuring that out. And I'm going to have a homie up here this weekend. Brother Zach is coming. Brother Oates, for those of you guys that know and remember him from Whiskey Wednesday long ago, he's coming up here and he's going to hang out with me and we're going to have a good time. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And speaking of things that are great and awesome and cool people, we're going to do another nice little round of chat motherfucking shout outs, ladies and gentlemen, because we've had some new folks join us. We've got Arceus over here with a fantastic thought. You have to develop control, and then eventually you have to learn to control the fear of losing control. Absolutely right. No point being lost. And then you have to become one with understanding your limits. So very good thoughts there, Arceus. Very good thoughts. We've also got Mr. Hexkin Lost in Asia. Thanks for the show, gents. Absolutely. It's been a good time. We fucking love it. We do it for you. We do it for you specifically, Hexkin Lost in Asia. The entire DGen Roundtable is all for you, baby. We fucking love it. Hell yeah. But yeah, absolutely right, broski. We are more than happy to do this, and we're glad that you're here and that you enjoy our conversation and our thoughts as well, man. It's such a boon to be able to hang out with cool folks such as Zenith and your guys, and just like being a part of this little world that we've made. So cool, so awesome. So 25 of you guys watching us live, 7 on YouTube, and then about 17 over or 18 over on X or something like that. So good to have you, Mr. Hex in Lost in Asia. We love it. And speaking of things we love to see Mr. Funkmaster Hex. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you too, sir, as well. Shout out to the Great White North, folks above the 45th parallel. Actually, I have no idea what parallel that is. It was the first one that popped into my mind. So I know that the up here in New Hampshire, the sun sets at like 9 o'clock at night. So, and we're coming up on summer solstice. So the longest day of the year is making its way. And also, guys, don't forget to wish your father happy Father's Day, because Father's Day is coming up. So don't forget. But yeah, good evening to all of you guys. And with that, I will say that I want to thank you all. Oh, we got a thing. What has Zenith got going on for us here? What is the 45th parallel? Oh, is that Oh no, the 49th parallel is the one for
The Korean border.
yeah. That's
I'm
the one
pretty
I
sure
was
it's the
thinking about.
32nd, if I'm not mistaken.
The 32nd for Korean? I think it's the
38th, excuse me.
38th parallel.
Yes.
What the heck? This parallel is barely even parallel. This map can't be accurate.
Well, that's a lesson for a different day about Mercator versus other types of projections on charts and how Greenland looks so massive, but it's not actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greenland's it's an illusion. It's actually the property of the United States. More like America land. But
they just don't know.
Anyways,
yet.
Time to end the show, folks. We're gonna do the closing. Oh man. The closing. Where the hell is my closing thing? Goodness gracious. All right. I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time with us here on the DGen Roundtable. As we like to say, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you spending that time right here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Will Stevenson. His name is Zenith, the digital investor. But more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. And I'm the producer getting my trigger finger ready because it's time to remind you guys at home to remember to DGen responsibly.